everyone, and it is Tuesday, and welcome to the Progress Report. I'm your host, Dion Sage, and it has been a very long week indeed. I know I say that every week, and it kind of sounds cliche, but it has been a long week. I mean, we got rid of one president last week. We get a whole new president the next day, which was actually wonderful. Question: did anybody watch Trump's 9-minute speech on his way out? He had like a small rally of people. And the funny thing about that is he invited so many key Republicans to go to his send off on Wednesday morning. And none of them showed up. They all went to the inauguration instead, including Senator, oh my God, can't believe his mother loved his face, Ted Cruz. He was at the inauguration instead. But you know who else was at the inauguration? Uh, Former presidents and their first ladies. And can I just say the winning outfit goes to no other than Dr. Michelle Obama, First Lady under Barack Obama. She walked, first off, stop, hold the presses. Michelle walked out of there to remind everybody that I'm still that bitch. I am. I am still that First Lady. I am that woman. I'm every woman. It's all in me. Anything you want done, baby, she'll do it naturally. Um, but Michelle Obama had the outfit of the entire day. But for me, and I know I'm about to commit a sin in the LGBTQ community, but Lady Gaga, that was a big bird. That was a huge bird. That bird like was about to fly off while you was singing, girl. Like I was scared because when you walked in with that poofy dress, it looked like you were knocking over people. It looked like you knocked over a couple of the Marines' hats and stuff. And then the bird looked like it poked somebody in the eye. And Nancy Pelosi left because she was mad. I think she was mad because you got that bird past security. That was a big bird. Like, it looked like the bird from The Rescuers Down Under, one of the big old Alcatraz birds that they were flying on. Like I don't know what. And the crazy thing is, when I looked at the dress, I said, "What in the Hunger Games is she wearing? Like, who are you? You just jump out there with that big old red poofy dress like it's the 19th century or something, and then you come in with the bird." I understand we all want wings of eagles and we want to be able to fly far away, but Lady Gaga, not with that bird. And and I want to congratulate from the bottom of my heart Vice President Kamala Harris. Yes, that sounds so good, doesn't it? The feminist in me just like popped out, like, yay! But not just the feminist in me, the black man in me, you know what I mean? The man of color in me was like, yes, finally, from Shirley Chisholm to Harris, yes! We've made it. We've arrived. We've arrived. Listen, and you know what? Still things are happening. Things are happening. The head of the DNC is a black man. The Secretary of Defense is a black man. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. We're still breaking barriers. We have the first. We have not the first, but we have a woman who's in charge of Treasury now. We have so many such a diverse cabinet that I think that could be reflective of America. Now the question for me is, what's next? Where do we go from here as a country? First, we got to heal as a country. Second, we got to get rid of the coronavirus. And then last but not least, we got to get ready for 2024 because we know one of the Trumps are going to run. I just feel one of the Trumps are going to run. Lord, please let it be Don Jr. because he's just as dumb as his daddy. And please don't let it be Eric. Don't let it be Eric because he's Eric. Well, that's all I can describe him as. He's Eric. Anyway, now the one I'd be afraid of is that Ivanka because she's sneaky, she's trippy, she's slippery. She's slippery. You got to be careful of that Ivanka. But with all that said, we have a wonderful, wonderful show today. I see that my producer Ken's telling me to wrap it up. Like, wrap it up. But we have a wonderful show. We have today for a quick conversation with Dion and friends. I have my good friend Trisha Fallon here. And also we'll be talking to my special guest tonight, city councilor from Pawtucket, Alexis Schutte, Hope I said that right. And so, yeah, so let's first bring my good friend, put some hot topics in. Former Miss Lesbian Rhode Island 2019, the one, the only, my sister, Miss Trisha Fallon. Hi, Trish. I think you're still on mute.
I didn't mute myself, so I didn't know I was muted. I'm sorry. What's up? So, first, I have to say, I know you're a church-going man. How did you not notice that the giant bird is a dove and it's carrying an olive branch?
I seen the olive branch and I saw the dove and all, but it was just a big ass bird. Okay, I'm not. That's.
I mean, I got some Mockingjay vibes there. I thought it was some Hunger Game shit or something.
Listen, dove idea, but it was just big. Okay, you could have went subtle. Just big.
I thought she was volunteering as tribute. For real
how
though.
You been? How was your holidays?
I'm good. You know, just.
I seen you over the holidays. So what am I saying? How was your holidays? I know how your holidays.
My holidays were good. They were weird. It was weird not being with my family and stuff. I was saying that to Tina. So she's like an army brat. She's driving. You know, she's. I'm sorry, Air Force. Don't kill me, Mr. Kane. Air Force brat. Sorry. Anyway, so she's always like been traveling during the holidays, and you know, my whole family is here, and so I'm used to being with my whole family for the holidays, and so that was very weird and different, for sure. But yeah, so you're saying talk about breaking ceilings, right? So I want to be optimistic with everything that's going on and all the new executive orders, especially those who are directed towards racial inequality and really bringing that to the forefront. There isn't a single Black woman in the U.S. House Democratic leadership, and there has not been for 44 years. And Ms. Kamala Harris, new VP, Vice President Harris, just left her position in the Senate, leaving the Senate with no Black women. I mean,
so there's still work to do.
So like,
I'm not going to argue.
People are celebrating all these firsts and all these big steps, and it's great. And I mean, we're even the part of this series is the rainbow wave. You know, we're taking those positions, but at the same time, there's just such a long way to go. You know, there's just we need.
I totally agree. There is a long way to go on all of it. We could talk about all the firsts we want, but
right. My biggest fear is that people are going to take this Biden-Harris win and they're going to just sit back like they did when Obama won. You know,
right.
And right now is when we need to take that momentum and keep moving forward and keep moving up and keep bringing people into office who are going to make change, especially even more so on the local levels.
Yes.
Yeah. Because changing what your city council looks like, changing what your school committee looks like, changing what, you know, your local leadership looks like is really what's going to change the bigger picture for you. You know,
also, I would even say not just those elected positions, but also the study commissions, the different boards that they have. I know in the city of Cranston, Councilor Vargas was looking for more people of color to be on juvenile board there. And so, you know, we have to also make sure that we're just not getting people elected to the positions in government.
But they're informing the legislation.
Just the legislation, not just the legislation, but also the different boards, the different the licensing board or the juvenile board, or it may be a study commission on
Board of Tenant Affairs,
on bathrooms. I don't know, you know, whatever it is, we still need more people. We still need more representation of people of color, people who are LGBTQ, and more marginalized people to go and be on those committees and apply for those committees. And, you know, one thing I'm going to ask a question probably later to the counselor. How can we get people on those committees?
It's how do you keep people involved when they feel like things are okay, especially those who are marginalized in ways, people like myself even. I'm white. I have privilege, simply for that fact. But I'm also part of marginalized communities. I'm a lesbian. I'm in a biracial relationship. I'm a woman. You know, those things also count against me. You know what I mean?
Right.
So but I still understand that my skin color still gives me privilege. So you've got a lot of people who are like, well, things aren't that bad for me, and so because they're not that bad for you, or you can't see how these policies and these bills and stuff are affecting your life, it's hard to see how it's affecting other people's lives, or people just don't care enough, which is kind of the sad, really sad truth. I think is that there's a lot of people who just don't care enough about their outside their circle,
Mm.
you know. Um,
I,
but speaking of things like that, I mean, all of this, not that it's new news, but just this transgender athlete legislation.
mm,
You know, there's one in Iowa which is saying that if a team, say a female softball team, we'll call it a softball team, or girls softball team, is accused of having a player that they believe was not born as a female biologically,
mhm.
um, that students' internal and external reproductive anatomy could actually become under examination. So they literally would have to go to a doctor to prove that they're girl enough to play in a women's league, which is just crazy because trans women, trans girls are women, period.
Mhm.
So they're literally trying to say that it's okay to examine the anatomy of these young trans girls, and that is just
That
mind-boggling to me.
see that right there, I completely disagree with. Like you can't go around checking the anatomy of people, of human beings, and invade that in a way. That's an invasion. That is an invasion of privacy. Number one, this came up, and a lot of my friends would talk. I was talking to a lot of my friends about this week, Trish, and um, we were talking about more so, um, more so. Uh, how this is gonna work. And I was and in my sport in bowling, I've always never seen the difference between men and women bowlers because of the technology in bowling. And there are women that I've competed against that can flat down kick my ass in bowling. Excuse my language. But um, I was sitting down this weekend and I was talking to a few people, women, more so women in particular. And right now in bowling, um, right now in bowling, we're dealing with in one of the tournaments, someone who has recently transitioned. Now, this person has won multiple titles, men's titles, things of that nature, and now has transitioned to a woman, and now will be able to bowl in senior women's events and women's events. And many of the women are saying, well, wait a minute, this is someone who has dominated on the men's side. Do they still get their honors as a male bowler? Because now they want to translate those. Does that person still get those honors? And I said, this is a good question. And I don't know. And I said, I don't know. I don't know how to think about that. But I think sports needs to sit down and really have a long discussion, an open discussion around this topic. There are a
you,
lot of feelings around it.
do you know how many um, male to female trans athletes are dominating female based sports right now?
No, I don't. I don't know. I, no.
It's a made up issue, is what I guess what I'm getting at. is it's just another way for uh, for society to hold on to this binary that really doesn't exist. It's made up.
Mm.
You know what I mean? We didn't always live this way. We didn't always have a binary world. It's made up. Gender is not binary, and to
Mm.
constantly continue to make it so in our bathrooms, in our sports programs, on an application form, it doesn't matter, like on our licenses, on our identification, it's just another attack on the trans community for no reason other than bigotry, as far as I'm concerned. It's all
I,
transphobia, and people
I
don't people don't like to talk about or think about things they don't understand, and so it's easier to just go with the
so
status quo, than to
another
educate themselves.
but another female bowler who is a mom of three and has two stepchildren. One of her children, she is married. She is married to a trans man, and she has said she said this is how I look at it. She said if a female transitioned to a male and they bowled with the men and against the men are not going to say anything. They're going to like, come on, bring the competition. You know, she said that's how I look at it. She said someone transitioning to a woman, they're a woman, and she said let them bowl against me. And she said, you know what? That makes me want to bowl higher. That makes me want to bowl harder. That makes me want to step up and rise to the competition if that's the case. So
Yeah.
like I said, I've been
I
talking
bet,
to
I bet,
multiple
I bet
people
we can have
about
this conversation with Alexis later. We were talking about it earlier, and like we've always played
that.
ball with the boys, you know. So
So quickly, we can let's definitely have this conversation a little bit more later with Alexis. But I just want to say this: Gina Raimondo confirmation at the hearing today, and now Dan
yeah, too bad she
McKee
hasn't been
looks like
anywhere here
this.
in Rhode Island. She's just been silent.
Uh,
She hasn't
I mean,
answered any questions since she got tapped. And I think McKee is just trying to kiss people's behinds right now. So I don't know that he's ready.
all right. Again, I still criticize a lot of it the last legislation session, how they just stopped legislation in the middle of coronavirus. I blame them. There were multiple ways that they could have had went in session. And even with that, Gina Raimondo, you're still governor, so you still should be doing your job. You still should be on the prowl. We understand you're about to be confirmed for a big position, Commerce Secretary.
Well,
We
and then
all
you
told
got Corvesi on Friday just tried to fast track to the General Assembly legislation to the General Assembly so that they get to pick the next lieutenant governor, not McKee, because right now in Rhode Island law there actually there isn't anything written that says
Mhm.
how the next lieutenant governor were to be chosen if this were to happen, because I just don't think that they thought this would happen. So Corvesi is trying to fast track legislation to have a grand committee which would meet and vote on the next lieutenant if this legislation passes. Although it's not favored by senators, so. But
Yeah, I mean, and I hope the senators don't favor it because it's a power grab it's another power grab by the House of Representatives in this state, and I'm tired. I'm so sick of the power
well,
grabs that they do in this.
McCaffrey made a good point. He said if the mayor, I mean, I'm sorry, if the governor, the new governor McKee, if he would be the new governor, were to choose his own lieutenant governor, that makes a better working team if they're choosing the person that they're kind of working with. But anyway, we have to go
Well,
to commercial, I think, right?
we do have to go to the commercial, but so we're gonna go to commercial. When I come back, I will have Counselor Alexis Shooty here. Alexis Shooty here. Okay. Go ahead and relax. We'll be right back. All right, and we're back. Great conversation with my good friend Trish. She'll be back a little bit later, but right now we're going to get into the meat and potatoes of tonight. And I say meat and potatoes because this is this is my favorite part is when I get to talk to uh, people who are working in legislation, people who are working in our local governments. And, I truly appreciate all of our guests during this segment. But right here in Rhode Island, the rainbow wave hit here in Rhode Island pretty good, I have to say. So I have my next guest, Alexis Schutte, is a counselor in the city of Pawtucket. Alexis is an artist and social justice advocate living in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. She believes Pawtucket is eager for new, diverse leaders to usher the city into the future, whereas to technology is not only important, but crucial to the well being of all citizens. She is also concerned about the negative impact of climate change that has already taken place on her community. She wants to prioritize more environmental conscious waste management solutions and to preserve the natural resources in Pawtucket. Finally, she has seen the devastating impact of the pandemic and economic crisis on undeserved neighborhoods and will fight for affordable housing measures to protect the most valuable. Uh, to my guests, I want to introduce you to one of my new people here, Alexis Schutte.
Hi, thanks for having me, Dion.
No problem. Thank you, Alexis, for coming, counselor. It's great to have you here. And I know there's some topics that we've talked about earlier that I know you want to get to. Um, but let me ask you a few questions first.
Absolutely.
Oh, by the way, to all of our guests out there, I mean, to all of our viewers out there, this is our first guest from the city of Pawtucket. We've had people from Providence, several from Woonsocket,
Number one.
Cranston, and this is the first one from Pawtucket. I like Pawtucket, but I don't like Pawtucket. Let me just say this. I like Pawtucket because it's small, convenient. But what I don't like about Pawtucket, I'm tired of all the one ways. Everywhere you look, there's a one way, just like all around. Like I got to go halfway around Pawtucket to get to one street. That don't make any sense, but it's okay. It's Pawtucket.
Yep.
So, Alexis, what made you run?
Honestly, I thought I'd be really good at it. I was a resident assistant in college. I've worked in the tech field for almost a decade. I've, since high school, I've been working on, learning about government, politics. I've been involved in civics education in North Carolina my entire life. My family was progressive. We talked about politics a lot. And I told myself that if I have the privilege of purchasing property, that I would seriously consider uh, running for office in some way, serving my community. I have, my grandfather was in the military. My mom was an Army brat, not an Air Force brat, an Army brat. She grew up, was born in DC. I also had on my dad's side a great uncle who was in the CIA. Like service to the country is a big part of our family. And as a queer person, I knew that there were some places that I probably could not serve safely when I was growing up. And so I thought to myself, what are my skills? Where can I best utilize them? How can I really think about what public service means? And the opportunity presented itself this year. As always, when you run, for me, I didn't have the expectation of winning. Running for me was a huge, exciting experience, but winning was icing on the cake. And now I get to actually be on the council. I get to talk to community members. I get to bring issues forward and really voice them within the context of this 9-person council and represent a very important segment of Pawtucket. And I'm just thrilled to bits. I'll be honest. Like every day I still am kind of like, I get mail and it says the Honorable Alexis C. Schutte, and I'm like, who's that? Oh, it's me. Great. So uh when you get that from like a sitting senator in Congress or in the House of Representatives, it suddenly hits me. I'm like, wow, I did something. I set a goal, achieved it, and now the hard work really begins. The hard work of governing really begins.
Yeah, yeah. It truly does. I always say. I remember back 10 years ago when I had gotten my friend Davion Sanchez elected in Providence as a city councilor. I told him now the hard work begins, and you have 4 years to prove to people that you're not too young for the position. You have 4 years to prove to people that you are the right one for the job. So I wish you all the luck in doing that. Um, is there one particular issue that made you say someone has to fight for this?
Oh gosh, I mean, Pawtucket. What can I say about Pawtucket? I really, I have to say two because it's hard. It's always hard for me to choose one of anything, but for this, I'll choose two. One is the curbing the negative effects of climate change, and really trying to put Pawtucket in a position of leadership from a municipal level to make changes citywide that can benefit everyone, because these issues affect everyone, but as we know, they disproportionately affect low-income families, people of color, people who have immigrated to this country. Like, we know how much it affects all of us, but then you multiply that times I don't know how much, and you're talking about all of us being in the same storm together, but in different boats, right? Like, that's what people say. And so trying to bring um, you know, municipal legislation forward that helps curb the effects of climate change, but also in a kind of non-legislative way, I really want to bring that civic engagement, the excitement back to being part of Pawtucket culture, particularly in Ward 4. I think, what y'all were talking about earlier with, people getting disengaged, coming out every 2 to 4 years, making their voices heard, but then going back and having a hard time keeping that momentum going. I want to do everything I can over the next 2 years of my term to keep that momentum going. And I have ideas about how to do that, but it's more than just what I can do every other Wednesday night in City Hall. Not in City Hall because we're not actually meeting there, but it's more than just that. It's about being a presence, helping people, and bringing their concerns to the folks that are supposed to solve them. And I really hope that I can make a change in those two areas this year.
Nice, nice. So most city councils, we see very gender specific terminology. And now in Pawtucket, we're seeing some changes happen there. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. We had our very first meeting, which is sort of a ceremonial meeting that is right after the inauguration ceremony. So normally in Pawtucket, after the inauguration, the old council transfers all the business to the new council. The new council becomes the official council. And then you do three things. You, as a council, vote for who the president is, vote for who the president pro temp is, and then you vote on the rules. And that sort of sets the stage for the entire rest of the term. And I looked through the rules, and it's about 9-10 pages of kind of archaic text, like the type of text that you would see in school books written in the 60s, right? Like a lot of his or her language, a lot of binary language. And I thought to myself, the rules actually seem very fair. And I think they are good rules for both council members as well as folks coming to the council who need business taken care of. But all of this gendered language really makes me feel uncomfortable. And I called the counselor pro tem, Counselor Mercer, and just said, I know this is a last minute adjustment. I know this is a last minute ask, but what do you think about this idea of striking this rule that kind of puts it was meant to make like her just as important as him, but now evolving in 2021, like what can we do to actually make it more fully inclusive instead of just a gender binary? And he thought that was a great idea. It was a very quick there wasn't really any discussion. There was no opposition to changing that rule. And I also feel like as an out queer person, it is my job to think about the future of who will be sitting in this seat. And I want someone who, say, is non-binary or just doesn't feel like they fit into a specific place on the spectrum of gender. I would love it if they won an election and saw these rules and didn't have any negative impact from that because all of the language is completely gendered one way or the other. So it was trying to think a little ahead of my own personal needs and trying to think of the needs of other community members, kids, folks that would be coming up and maybe interested in these positions. I wanted to try to make sure that they were reflected right away within this language so that in the future it's a non-issue.
Nice, nice. What is the biggest issue in Pawtucket, and how do you plan on tackling the issue?
Pawtucket has a lot of things going on, but if I'm thinking really about my ward, Ward 4, which encompasses the left and right sides of the river, it kind of hugs the Seekonk River. So you have Quality Hill, East Riverside, Beverage Hill Ave, and on the other side you have parts of Oak Hill. We have a huge development project coming, the Tidewater Landing project that is going to redevelop the riverfront. And these types of things happen slow for a very long time, and then it's fast, 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 fast. Shovels are in the ground, things are getting built, and how do you keep the community involved, answer their questions, make sure that their concerns are heard so that the quality of life of residents doesn't we want the quality of life for all residents to improve with this development project. So we have to learn what residents need and what is causing an issue. So, and we're a majority minority town. I can't even tell you how many unique languages are spoken in Pawtucket, but I know that English, Spanish, Portuguese, and Cape Verdean Creole, all of these languages are spoke in high proportion. So how do we not just do the usual thing and send out mailings to folks that are in the immediate vicinity of this stadium, but how do we make sure that every citizen of Pawtucket has a chance to engage with these commissions, with the council, with the development team? And I've been very impressed. I'll be honest. We had a community meeting that was hosted by the development group, and they had translators in every language available to answer questions, translate questions, and make sure that we were, actually could answer right away what the immediate concerns were or what these questions were. And I hope that continues. I want it to continue across the whole project because I think people who haven't been necessarily paying as close attention as I have, because again, I ran for council. I've been watching this thing for a long time from a different lens.
Right.
I want to make sure people aren't caught off guard and caught by surprise when a significant chunk of the city is redeveloped in a way that's going to change traffic patterns. It's going to change how, like, the skyline. It's going to be an incredible project, but it's also, a lot of people don't really know what the details of that are. So how can I make those details known? How can I get people to engage back with the city?
Yeah, and I always said that keeping the community involved in what you're doing, I think that's big. I always used to tell politicians that I used to work with in Providence, listen, if you have 10 things that you plan on working on in this legislative session, get those 10 things, and every step that you take for those 10 things, write the steps down that you did. So when you go back to the door and say, look, this is what I did to try to get this done. I was either successful because we did this, or I was unsuccessful because this happened. And this is how I plan on changing and making it better. And I think people, the constituency, would rather hear that nowadays than just the sound bite from a politician. Before we get deeper, I want to bring Trish back in. Bring my friend Trish in. All right.
Hello.
And I want to apologize that I'm frozen. I know what I did wrong this week. Last week, I used my data on my phone to do the thing, and now I'm using the Wi-Fi, and I have to remember that everybody's on the Wi-Fi. So I got to turn the Wi-Fi off, and I don't want to do it in the middle because I think then I would probably lose a connection. So I want to deeply apologize to everyone that I'm frozen. I did notice that. So this whole series is about the rainbow wave. So I want to talk about how important LGBTQIA plus representation is on the local, state, and federal level. What are you guys' thoughts? And we're gonna go with I'm gonna go with Trish on the first question.
Well, I mean, that's something we talked about a little bit earlier too, about representation and how much it really does make a difference. I distinctly remember I grew up in Newport, where is not a place where you, at least when back when I was growing up, didn't necessarily feel welcome where I was. You know what I mean? And there's an LGBTQ community down there that I think feels very isolated. But I remember in the early 2000s, we had a openly gay man on our city council. And that was big to me. I was like, wow, like Newport elected an openly gay man to our city council. Like for me, that like almost is like a little bit of a level of relief of like, okay, maybe I'm not so not accepted here. You know what I mean? And I think that resonates, whether that's the first black man or the first black woman or the first Asian woman or the first of all of those things in one person, which is possible. You know what I mean? That I mean, look at Kamala. She's the first Asian woman, first black woman, first woman. you know, you can check a lot of boxes, but those boxes are important. Like and I think for somebody like you, Alexis, I mean, I hope that you see yourself as part of that representation. Uh, that putting yourself out there and taking one of those seats and taking a role and saying, this is important.
So, Alexis, how important do you think it is for representation of our community in politics?
Oh gosh, I think it's critical. I mean, two things come to mind. Growing up, I had a teacher who said pretty frequently, just in a variety of contexts, he would say, to be it, you have to see it, right? To be it, you have to see it. And some of us, I think, are kind of blessed with that vision to know that, yeah, we can see it coming. Like the wave is coming. But until it's actually here, a significant portion of both governing bodies as well as constituents won't really understand. Like, it won't quell the fears that get stoked by queer people running for office or people of color running for office or people who have disabilities. Like, you need to actually see those people in those seats doing the work to make it happen. And I hope, certainly, with Vice President Harris taking such a huge leap forward for so many women, so many people of color, and then really getting the work done, I hope that starts to make the conversations about, like, well, women, like, I just don't see a woman in this position, or I just don't see someone like that doing this thing. Well, now you see it. Now there will be some data. You can go back and analyze it. You can do whatever you want, but like, you have to give people opportunities, and you have to also take opportunities when they're available. I mean, I was scared. I'm going to be honest. I was kind of scared running for city council because I don't know how many times I've seen the movie Milk. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, I'll be honest, these aren't games. Like, this is real life. Like, people get hurt for being themselves and stoking some kind of fear within people. And I don't think that folks who have lived a life where they have not existed sort of on the barriers of a majority, I just don't think they really understand that. And I'm hoping that having more folks in office to share their stories, to share their perspectives, to make legislation to protect these communities, I think it's going to make a huge difference.
Well, going what you said about understanding and I believe that the more representation have, the more understanding we are going to have about people will have about our community. Do you think that having more representation, especially of our trans and non-binary siblings, would help in this argument against trans women competing in women's sports?
I really hope so, because and I know I could go off on this because I grew up
We
in
did earlier.
I grew up in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I played mostly in sports leagues that were dominated by men. I was like on the news for being like the only girl that played hockey or the only girl that got onto like the baseball all-star team. And I will flex on this. I beat Senator Richard Burr's son to get on that team. So, first of all, bye-bye, Senator Burr. Second of all, your son is not great at baseball. Also, yes, because what is frustrating to me when these kind of articles come up in the news or these types of fires are stoked, I do not know a queer person or a trans person that would ever even consider the possibility of putting them into like being part of this family for the purpose of a trophy or some kind of like athletics by their nature are genetics contests, right? So what's next? Like I'll do the slippery slope argument that people did for gay marriage too. I'll say, okay, so you want to legislate like body types, you want to legislate hormones. So for the 100-yard dash, are we going to have Usain Bolt compete against only people of his height and his weight? Or is he going to compete with the same group of people that might not have like the same genetic balance that he does? Like it's athletic competition. It is about who works hard, who goes by the same rules as everyone else. And frankly, like the argument, I agree with Trish, like the argument about like trans kids competing, like it's just another way for the same Moms Demand Action groups and all of those folks to get upset about something that isn't really real. Because I would prefer to protect trans kids from all of the violence, harassment, and everything else that they experience every day than worry about if someone's not going to win a gold medal or a silver medal because they're now competing in the same league. Like, I just don't care. I just don't care because their life, their existence, their personhood is more important than this fake idea of fair competition. Like it frustrates me.
Well, and when you come down to it's baseless. There were exactly this many, transgender folks like dominating sports all over the place. You know what I mean? It is predatory legislation. It's predatory language, and it is literally like the same thing you said and I said earlier is that it literally is just another way to go after the trans community, and I feel like 90% of the reasons people come up with are predatory or they're based on religion or they're none of it's a real argument.
Here's a fact. I don't know if you guys know who Reggie Miller and Cheryl Miller is, but Reggie Miller was a pro basketball player. Cheryl Miller was one of the most dominant female players or woman athletes in college sports ever. Unfortunately, when Cheryl Miller graduated college, there was no WNBA, so we never got to see her play at a professional level. Reggie Miller has confessed publicly that if it wasn't for his sister taking him to the court, teaching him how to play, playing one-on-one against him, we would have never been able to enjoy Reggie Miller in the NBA. And another fun fact about Cheryl Miller, more people listen to her sports commentation on NBA than anybody because she's someone who knows and understands the game but has played the game. And it has also been said that Cheryl Miller, if the NBA was accepting women would have accepted women in the NBA, then she could have played very well in the league. So again, I don't.
Well, you're just getting into a whole nother topic of women in sports in general. Like, I mean, you're talking about the first female ref in the Super Bowl this coming weekend.
I'm just saying. What I'm saying, when people like Billie Jean King, yeah, endorses trans women playing sports,
right.
who
Who are we to say?
exactly? Who are we to say? There's been plenty of times where I've bowled in a battle sexes tournament, and the women just dusted the guys.
Yep.
So this to sit there and say that a woman can't compete with a trans woman is hogwash. It's bull. I think it's bull. I believe it's bull. Period. Um, Next question. Kind of lost my place here.
I got one.
Yes, nice. Good.
Um, so the LGBTQ community has come a long way, but as we've talked about, there's still a lot of hate and transphobia and homophobia out there. You have made some comments about public safety reform. And so what do you plan on doing to help combat some of that stuff in Pawtucket?
Yeah, it's challenging, right? Because it's a situation where I feel in the middle of a very important time in history, a time when there is the desire from all areas of the constituency to have leaders held to a higher standard, to be held accountable for decisions that they are made. And I believe in my heart of hearts truly that if you are in a position of power, whether that's a landlord tenant relationship, whether that's a police and someone who's interacting with the police relationship, whether it's me and a constituent, there's a power dynamic there. And because of that, the people who have less power need to be empowered to get on the same level. And in Pawtucket, I don't know if that's ever been true. Again, I've only lived here for 5 years. I know the entire history. But even today, if you Google Pawtucket police, another news story has come out about Pawtucket police being under fire for decisions that they have made. And it is exceptionally frustrating to not only have my own personal experiences with the police department kind of diminished or not taken seriously, but to also see members of the community who have had this issue for years, decades even, not be heard, not be seen, and just be told it's not even a problem. There isn't anything worse than that, in my opinion, to just throw it aside, because by dismissing it out of hand, you are not even taking the very basic step of respecting those people. And I don't know how it's going to be solved because it is so layered. And as a council person, I am not, part of the mayor's office. I am not a member of the administration. And I'm also in a new counselor, right? I've just got elected. So I hope that through kind of that second thing that I talk about, like the civic engagement piece, bringing people who are in Pawtucket and invested in looking at new ways to work with public safety or to have public safety be a priority, I'm hoping that the same energy that I see in Providence a lot of the time comes back to Pawtucket. Because I see even people that live in Pawtucket, work in Pawtucket, go to rallies in Providence or go help out in Providence. But I don't see that same type of energy here so much. And I don't know why that is, but I want to make the conversation accessible to everyone so that folks can engage in these discussions. But I need folks, not just me, I need the entire community rallying behind this objective and hopefully coming out and speaking to these issues, and not just having the same old folks who have who've been saying that this is a problem for years. We need everybody on board with this. So that is my goal. I need everybody on board with coming up with new ways to attack this serious problem of an unequal public safety system here in Pawtucket.
And it's crazy because for a long time, even I live in Providence, as was said earlier, that I'm a bowler, and a lot of times I visit East Providence Lanes, which is right there. You go down Avenue, and then I forget what I think it's and I take Prospect to get back to the highway to get to exit 28, and a lot of times, one thing we definitely are afraid of is being pulled over by the Pawtucket police. Um, and a lot of times it felt as though they waited right there because they knew we were coming out of the bowling alley every week at the same time. And every week, I want to say this went on for 6 weeks straight. We were pulled over by the same police officer, and we were going 1 mile over the speed limit. Um, every week. And it was like, dude, it's like you prop yourself there. Finally, we purposely drove 1 mile under the speed limit. He still said we were over the speed limit. And so I was like, we knew it was some BS. So we ended up going the opposite way, not to go through Pawtucket, so we can catch 195 because we wouldn't get pulled over as much going the opposite way through Rumford. So I never, and it's crazy because I sit there and I question, why is it every week on a Wednesday night, 3 black boys are getting pulled over in the city of Pawtucket?
Yeah.
And it's not just something that happens in Pawtucket. I think there's other counties that happens, but I think it's a really good question that you're asking, Alexis. Where is the community? Why are we just in Providence? On my other show, Coffee with D, I've asked that question before. I said, a lot of other counties, cities and towns have bigger issues with their police departments than Providence. Why aren't we going to those cities and towns and rallying there? We really need to rally in cities like Pawtucket. We need to rally in cities like East Providence and Lincoln, Rhode Island, and Warwick, Rhode Island, and West Warwick, places where people who look like myself, that look like you as well, are not welcome. So we need to be able to go there. So I do have 2 questions for you. These are very, very important questions, by the way. These are the most important questions. So my first question to you is, what is your favorite comfort food?
Macaroni and cheese, period.
That was such a quick answer.
You're welcome.
Where's your favorite takeout place for macaroni and cheese?
I forgot.
The Red Fan.
I think it was Marlene Guy. I think it was Guy from Woonsocket. I think she had said the same thing.
I think you're right.
Yep. My next question: if you were to give us a word or a phrase that you live by, what would it be?
Oh gosh. Nothing changes if nothing changes.
Nothing changes.
I have a great relationship with a guy in West Warwick that used to be like a personal trainer and fitness coach for me. And that was his mantra of, we would say it almost every time, like nothing changes if nothing changes. So yes, it might hurt, things might be hard, but the only thing we can predict in this world is that it will change, and that our adjustment to that change is kind of who we are. And so in order to make a difference, change is inevitable, because the key is that it's not conservatism as a concept that's problematic. It's the fact that any amount of change is scary, but we have to bring everyone into it, and everyone has to accept that in order for everyone to find that level of equality and to find a place, especially in Rhode Island and Pawtucket, nothing changes if nothing changes. So let's get together and try to make change that everyone can find valuable at this point.
Nice. Thank you so much, Alexis. We're going to be right back with final thoughts, y'all. Don't go anywhere. And we are back. So, I'm happy to be back with you guys. And we're going to have some final thoughts. I Alexis and thank Trish for being here tonight. But I'm going to let Alexis take us away with our final thoughts.
All right, my final thought is just that, sometimes I think we as queer folks, as folks who aren't given the same privileges and opportunities as some other folks, we doubt ourselves when it comes to things like running for local government or running for a school committee. And I just want to tell anyone who is running, who is just considering the possibility of throwing their hat in the ring because they have good judgment, they have sound ideas, and they want to represent their community proudly, really consider it. In the next time that you have the chance to run, it is hard. There's a lot of scrutiny. Like, it is a difficult thing, but without good people running, there's not good people to vote for. And Dion, like, if you ever wanted to run, call me. I think it would be wonderful. Like Trish, same thing. Like, honestly, like, we need more people actually like getting those signatures and putting their names on the ballot. And if there's anything I can do to help our community here in Rhode Island make that happen, just let me know, because I'd love to see it. Let's keep that wave going.
Yay. Cheers.
My final thoughts. So I definitely agree that, yeah, we need to start inspiring more people to run for office. But not just office, like Dion was saying before, get involved in committees, join your local nonprofits, lobby at the state house. There's lots of different ways to get involved. It doesn't have to be in person. There's lots of stuff you can do online. Social media is huge. There's phone calls. There's all sorts of ways you can volunteer for candidates. Like, there's all sorts of different ways to get involved, no matter what you bring to the table. And I think a lot of people doubt what their skills are, and what they're like, well, how could I help?
Right.
I'm just this person, But now is like really, really when we need that push. And that's what I was saying. Like, I'm hoping things don't happen like they kind of did when Obama was elected. People just kind of sat back and were like, oh, cool, we got a black guy in the White House, so we're good, And it's like, but no, like, that wasn't enough, clearly, because then we ended up with, an orange man in the White House for, for a few years. But right now they're saying they're bracing for huge anti-LGBTQ backlash right now because of the election of Biden. There are more than 20 anti-LGBTQ bills that have been introduced since in over a dozen states since Biden's confirmation or the inauguration. I'm sorry, like over 20. So, like, we've got work to do. It's not, we're not done just because, the house is blue right now. The house is always a little purple. You know what I mean? So.
Well, thank you, Trish. So I want to thank my friend, Miss K Rhode Island 2019, Miss Trisha Fallon, for being on the show today. Thank you to Pawtucket Counselor Alexis Schutte for being on the show today. So here are my final thoughts. I've been a little trying to figure out what would I say for my final thoughts tonight, but I think this just wraps it up. There is still work for us to do. Yes, Joe Biden is president. Yes, Kamala Harris is vice president. Yes, right now we have the Senate and we have the House, but there is still work to do. There's work to do at the local level, at our state level, as well as in our municipalities. There's work to do on the ground. We still need more advocates to be out here banging the pavement and pushing our elected officials to make the right decisions. We need more people to become judges. We need more people to become defense attorneys. We need more people on our study commissions. We need more people just to be the gas meter person so we can make sure that they ain't cheating us. And I said it right. But with all that said, There is still work to do. We can have all the faith in the world and things changing, but if we do not work, that faith is dead. With all that said, I want to say goodnight to Rhode Island and goodnight, America.